It begins with silence, a silence so vast it feels engineered. From above, the Korean peninsula looks like a heart split in two, one half pulsating with light, the other swallowed by darkness. The border glows faintly like a scar, and beyond it lies a land that time refuses to touch. A land of symmetry, suspicion, and secrets buried beneath concrete smiles. North Korea is not just a country, it is a performance. And behind the stage, hidden from the eyes of the world, are cities that officially do not exist. Imagine descending from the clouds into Pyongyang. The capital shines like a stage set meticulously polished for an audience of one, the supreme leader. Streets are wide, perfectly aligned. Buildings stand in obedient rows. Murals of smiling soldiers and mothers carrying red flags tower over boulevards that feel more like corridors of control than arteries of life. But beyond this facade, far from the capital's carefully rehearsed perfection, lie the forbidden cities, constructed, concealed, and erased from maps before they could ever be seen. Foreign visitors never glimpse them. Even most North Koreans never hear their names. They are hidden within the folds of mountains, disguised by forests, guarded by silence. Locals call them closed cities, though the term doesn't capture their purpose. They are more like living vaults, places where secrets are stored in human form. Scientists who cannot leave, soldiers who have no past, families relocated overnight, vanishing from one province and appearing in another, their names rewritten, their histories erased. The first whispers of these cities came not from journalists or spies, but from defectors, men and women who risked everything to escape. They spoke of strange compounds deep in Chagang province, entire towns built around a single purpose: research, weapons, secrecy. One defector, a railway worker, described a station where every train window was sealed with metal shutters as it passed through. He never saw the city, only its edges, a flicker of movement, a watchtower, the glint of uniforms in the mist. Satellite images would later confirm what they had seen: vast complexes with identical buildings, high fences and watchtowers at every corner. Roads that led in, but none that led out. Some of these cities, like Yongbyon, are known to the outside world, a nuclear facility disguised as an industrial town. But others are ghosts, unrecorded and unnamed, existing in the blind spots of global surveillance. It is here, in these hidden grids of concrete and shadow, that the regime forges its illusions of power. To understand them, one must first understand the architecture of control. North Korea's geography itself has been weaponized. Each mountain ridge, each valley, each tunnel serves a purpose beyond the visible. Beneath Pyongyang runs a labyrinth of tunnels, some designed as bomb shelters, others as emergency routes for escape, and some rumored to connect directly to underground military bases. Defectors speak of entire facilities buried beneath hills, equipped with power stations, hospitals, and even cinemas, where elite families could survive for months unseen. Yet the most unsettling truth is not what lies underground, but what lives above it, unseen yet alive. Entire populations relocated to sustain the illusion of prosperity. Towns built solely for propaganda films, filled with actors posing as content citizens. One such place stands along the border with South Korea, Kijongdong, the Peace Village. From afar, its blue roofs shimmer invitingly across the demilitarized zone. Loudspeakers once blared patriotic songs day and night, promising peace and glory to the south. But step closer, and you realize the windows have no glass. The lights flicker on and off at perfect intervals, controlled by timers. The village is a hollow stage, a mirage of life. Now imagine dozens of such places scattered across the nation's rugged landscape, each one built with a purpose: deception, isolation, control. Some serve as testing grounds for loyalty, where soldiers' families live under constant surveillance. Others are training centers for elite operatives, where even the youngest children are raised to never question orders. These are the cities you will never find on a map, because maps in North Korea are not instruments of navigation. They are instruments of obedience. From the air, you might see neat rectangles of farmland, perfectly measured fields and roads that end abruptly in forests. But what lies within those forests is what satellites cannot easily show: subterranean factories, chemical labs, military bunkers disguised as schools. In one province, researchers analyzing satellite data found evidence of an entire town built into a mountainside, its roofs barely visible through camouflage nets, its power lines connected to no external grid. Its purpose remains unknown. And yet, in the heart of this secrecy, life continues, ordinary, quiet, and unspeakably constrained. Children wake to the sound of revolutionary songs broadcast through speakers mounted on every home. They march to school in perfect lines, repeating slogans about loyalty and sacrifice. Adults work in assigned roles, never questioning why they were moved there or what came before. Their city may not exist on any map, but for them it is the entire world. The illusion is complete when the imprisoned believe the cage is home. Foreigners rarely see beyond Pyongyang's bright facades, the pastel towers, the manicured parks, the disciplined smiles of tour guides who watch as much as they speak. They do not see the cities where the nation's true machinery hums. They do not see the rail lines leading to nowhere, the workers who vanish after one mistake, or the schools that double as indoctrination centers. Every building in North Korea tells a story, but it's the buildings you cannot see that tell the truth. The regime's obsession with secrecy is not paranoia, it is strategy. By hiding entire cities, it hides its weaknesses. Isolation becomes armor. Invisibility becomes power. Even satellite analysts, studying the terrain for decades, admit there are gaps, places where data disappears, where patterns don't make sense. Those gaps are where North Korea hides its experiments, its prisons, its future. But the truth leaks quietly through those who've lived within the system. A defector named Jiwon once spoke of a city in the north, where citizens were forbidden to leave without military permission. Every household was required to attend nightly self-criticism sessions, where residents confessed minor faults before their neighbors. To refuse was to disappear. The city had no name, only a number. Factories ran without signs. The only visible identifiers were the slogans painted on every wall: "We live for the leader. One Korea, one heart." It was a world closed upon itself, looping endlessly in a cycle of fear and reverence. There are rumors, always rumors, of hidden cities built for the elite, shielded from the scarcity that defines the rest of the nation. Places where imported food and foreign alcohol circulate freely, where electricity never fails, and where families of high-ranking officials live like ghosts, unseen even by their own people. Some say these enclaves lie near the coast, guarded by military checkpoints and false forests. Others whisper that entire islands off the western shore have been converted into retreats for the leadership, paradises invisible to the poor. But if luxury is hidden, suffering is buried deeper still. The secret prison cities, known as Kwanliso, are among the most terrifying places on Earth. Officially, they don't exist. No records, no photographs, no names. Yet defectors describe them in haunting detail. Endless labor camps the size of small countries, fenced with electrified wire, patrolled by soldiers with orders to shoot without warning. Prisoners born inside these walls never know freedom. Their only inheritance is guilt. They mine coal, cut timber, farm frozen soil. They live and die in the shadows, their lives erased even before they end. What makes these hidden worlds even more chilling is how seamlessly they fit into the country's logic. North Korea's secret cities are not aberrations, they are the blueprint. The entire nation operates like one vast, layered illusion. Above ground, the show continues. Parades, speeches, glowing portraits. Below, the machinery turns. Factories producing weapons, camps extracting obedience, bunkers storing the regime's survival plans. Every visitor leaves Pyongyang believing they've seen the heart of the country, but the truth is that Pyongyang itself is only another layer of disguise. The city you're shown is not the city that exists. Beyond the gleaming facades lie districts forbidden to foreigners, where power outages are constant, where food shortages persist, and where ordinary citizens are invisible to the state that demands their loyalty. The regime reveals just enough beauty to distract from the brutality that sustains it. Even the architecture tells this story. In Pyongyang's center stands the Ryugyong Hotel, a massive pyramid of glass and steel, once meant to symbolize North Korea's modernity. It remains unfinished, empty and haunting, a monument to ambition that outran reality. Locals call it the Phantom Tower. For years it stood dark, its construction halted, until the regime ordered the exterior sealed in glass to hide its hollow core. From afar, it gleams. Up close, it is silent, like the country itself. And yet, despite this silence, people endure. Beneath the fear and surveillance, there is still humanity, families who find ways to laugh softly at night, children who whisper forbidden dreams, elders who remember a freer career from long ago. They live in these secret cities too, hidden not by choice but by circumstance. Their resilience is invisible to outsiders, but it is real. To enter North Korea, even as an observer, is to step into a theater where every seat is monitored and every performance scripted. But behind the curtain lies the true show. A network of invisible cities sustaining an illusion that has lasted for decades. Some of these cities are built on the bones of older towns, erased and renamed after purges. Others are born from military necessity, testing grounds for weapons, training sites for cyber units, hidden ports for smuggling operations. The regime moves its secrets like chess pieces, always anticipating the next satellite pass, always staying one step ahead of exposure. And still, there are places that defy explanation. In the northeastern mountains, images reveal vast networks of tunnels with no visible entry roads. In the coastal plains, clusters of identical housing blocks stand in areas where no civilians are recorded to live. Are these ghost cities, decoys, or something more? Each unanswered question tightens the veil, making the truth even harder to touch. For outsiders, the idea of an entire country operating like a mirage is difficult to fathom. But in North Korea, deception is not merely a tactic, it is survival. The regime understands that mystery itself is a form of power. By keeping the world guessing, it stays untouchable. What we cannot see, we cannot fully confront. The sun sets slowly over the peninsula. From the southern side, you can see the faint glow of Seoul, millions of lives humming in freedom. Just across the line, darkness deepens. Somewhere within it, hidden under the shroud of mountains and fear, are the secret cities of North Korea. Cities that breathe, function, and die in silence. Cities you were never meant to see. And as the night settles, you begin to wonder, how many of them are still growing in the dark? How many more remain invisible, not because they are hidden, but because we've stopped looking? This is where the journey begins. Imagine standing at the edge of a city that does not exist. The road beneath your feet is immaculate, swept by unseen hands, lined with banners praising eternal loyalty. The air is still. Even the birds seem cautious here. This is not a city of chance. It is a city of design. A masterpiece of control built to house belief itself. Welcome to the unseen heart of North Korea's hidden world, where architecture is ideology and streets are arteries of obedience. Every structure here whispers the same message: perfection through submission. Schools are built with symmetrical precision, every window facing the same direction, every classroom identical. Government offices are indistinguishable from libraries and libraries from dormitories. In these hidden cities, uniformity is beauty, and deviation is sin. The lines between home, work, and prison blur until they no longer exist. Every wall carries the same portraits: Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un, eternal eyes watching from frames polished daily. No dust dares to settle on them. To the outsider, this might seem like ordinary discipline, the mark of a strict but functioning state. But step closer, and the illusion fractures. In the heart of these forbidden cities, control is not simply maintained, it is cultivated. Every household is part of a surveillance grid. Residents are ranked by loyalty scores, their status determined by the actions of grandparents long dead. Marriage, education, even housing, all dictated by the regime's invisible hand. Citizens are divided by class, from the core loyalists to the hostile elements. The lucky live near the center, where electricity flows more freely, where food is slightly more abundant. The unlucky are sent to the peripheries, to cold apartments where the lights flicker and heat comes only from hope. In one such city, known only by its administrative code, life revolves around a single factory. It produces components said to be used for the regime's missile program, though the workers do not know this. Each man and woman is responsible for a single action, tightening a bolt, sealing a wire, stamping a code. They never see the final product. The city's entire economy is circular. Wages are symbolic and rations depend on loyalty reports filed by supervisors. No one questions the system because questioning requires imagination, and imagination is the first casualty of fear. Fear is the quiet pulse beneath every street here, not the sharp terror of sudden violence, but the slow suffocation of constant observation. Every neighborhood has a block warden, a local authority who reports on attendance at ideological meetings, on who smiles too little, on who whispers too often. Every building has a loudspeaker that begins broadcasting at dawn and ends only after midnight. There is no off switch. The voices speak of duty, purity, and eternal gratitude. Over time, they merge with thought itself. Silence becomes subversion, but within this silence another world exists. Hidden beneath the surface, beneath layers of obedience and propaganda, lies a second rhythm, the human one. Mothers barter quietly at dawn, trading rice for soap behind abandoned warehouses. Children sneak pebbles into their pockets, pretending they are candies. Old men sit by windows, pretending to read newspapers that never change. They all know the truth, yet cannot speak it. Words are dangerous here, even gestures carry risk. A sigh at the wrong moment can destroy a family. To understand these secret cities, one must understand that they are both prison and sanctuary. They confine, but they also protect. In a nation where loyalty determines life, being relocated to a restricted zone can be a punishment or a privilege. For some, it means seclusion from the chaos of scarcity. For others, it is exile from existence itself. The line between safety and disappearance is so thin, it might as well be imaginary. There are places where this line becomes visible. Hidden deep in the northern mountains lies a settlement rumored to be a nuclear research hub. Its roads are paved with imported concrete. Its schools teach advanced physics to children handpicked for their lineage. Every citizen here is under permanent surveillance, but they live better than most. Steady rations, working electricity, even sporadic access to medical care. They are the privileged prisoners of science, raising families in comfort that is, paradoxically, captivity. Their children grow up believing they are serving the nation's destiny, never realizing they are building the cage that holds them. The deeper you go into these cities, the more control becomes invisible. It's not the soldiers that enforce obedience, it's the architecture itself. Streets curve strategically, preventing long lines of sight. Public squares are designed for mass gatherings, their acoustics optimized for the echo of slogans. Even color plays a role. In Pyeongsan, state planners dictated that buildings be painted pale blue and gray, colors of tranquility and restraint. Every visual element reinforces submission, from the symmetry of monuments to the monotony of concrete. You do not need chains when the city itself is the chain. And then there are the tunnels. Beneath these hidden cities lies a second world, an underground empire that few outsiders have ever glimpsed. In the 1970s, North Korean engineers dug hundreds of tunnels across the country, officially for defense, unofficially for survival. Some stretch for miles, connecting factories to military bases, schools to bunkers, entire towns to mountains. During the day, they remain sealed. At night, activity surges. Trucks move without headlights, guarded convoys disappear into hills, and the hum of generators fills the air. To the untrained ear, it sounds like nothing, but to those who listen closely, it is the heartbeat of secrecy. Defectors tell of entire families who vanished into these underground networks, never to return. Some claim they were relocated for classified work, assembling weapons, coding software for cyber units, developing communication systems. Others speak of darker purposes, chemical experiments, biological research, training programs for special forces. The truth is buried with them. What is certain is that these tunnels serve one goal: to preserve the regime, no matter the cost. The regime's architects understand the psychology of invisibility. They know that secrecy breeds fear, and fear breeds loyalty. When no one knows where the walls end, everyone assumes they are surrounded. A farmer in Ryangang province once told investigators that his greatest fear was not punishment, but not knowing why punishment came. "You never know what rule you've broken," he said, "only that you've already broken it." In these secret cities, that uncertainty is law. Propaganda fills the gaps where truth should be. Citizens are told that foreigners envy their purity, that the outside world is diseased and collapsing. They believe it because disbelief requires proof, and proof has been systematically erased. Books from before the revolution have been burned, photographs retouched, even maps redrawn. When you ask a North Korean child to draw their country, they fill the entire page. There is no room for anything else. Still, the regime cannot completely contain curiosity. In recent years, a quiet rebellion has begun to flicker inside these hidden cities, not through protests or speeches, but through screens. Smuggled USB drives from China carry South Korean dramas, Western films, fragments of another world. Young people gather secretly at night to watch them. They see color, laughter, freedom, emotions that no propaganda can replicate. For some, it plants a seed of doubt. For others, it is a death sentence. Possession of foreign media can lead to execution, yet the hunger for truth persists, spreading silently, pixel by pixel, like light leaking into a dark room. The government responds with precision. In these restricted cities, inspectors conduct random home searches. Soldiers seize electronic devices, scanning for contraband. Informants are rewarded with food, a dangerous incentive in a starving nation. Public executions are staged as warnings. But fear is no longer absolute. It is fraying slowly, invisibly. You cannot cage an idea once it has been seen. Still, the system adapts. When whispers grow, the regime relocates families overnight, erasing entire neighborhoods. Cities shift like living organisms, constantly rearranging to mask instability. A street that existed yesterday may be gone tomorrow, its residents scattered across provinces, its name deleted from records. This constant movement keeps everyone unanchored, unable to form trust. Every friend could be a spy, every neighbor a threat. In the outskirts of one such secret city, a defector described a housing block built beside a vast concrete wall. Behind the wall, no one knew what lay beyond. Soldiers patrolled it day and night. Sometimes faint lights flickered over the top, blue, then red, then darkness again. Children invented stories about what was inside: an underground zoo, a laboratory, a palace. Years later, satellite imagery revealed that behind that wall stood a military complex producing chemical agents. The children's stories weren't so far from the truth. The deeper one looks, the clearer it becomes that these hidden cities are not mistakes. They are the design. Each one plays a role in the regime's grand illusion. Some manufacture weapons, others manufacture loyalty. Some isolate the unwanted, others reward the faithful. Together, they form a nation within a nation, a system so intricate, so layered, that even its citizens cannot see its full shape. To the regime, the world beyond its borders is the true secret city. North Koreans are taught that outsiders live in darkness, enslaved by greed and corruption. This inversion of reality is deliberate. By convincing citizens that they are the only pure people left, the regime transforms captivity into pride. They are not prisoners, they are protectors of truth, and so the cycle continues. Control disguised as devotion, fear disguised as faith. Every wall, every tunnel, every unseen city reinforces this illusion, yet cracks are forming. Satellite images show construction accelerating in the northern provinces, new facilities rising where forests once stood. The outside world suspects military expansion. Insiders whisper of something else: relocation, consolidation, preparation. The regime is shifting its population inward, away from borders into controlled zones. It is building a nation that can vanish if needed, a state that exists only when it wants to be seen. And so, the hidden cities grow. Their lights burn unseen beneath the clouds, their people move in silence, their stories erased as quickly as they unfold. The world watches from afar, guessing at shadows. But for those inside, there is no need to guess. They live within the secret itself, breathing its air, walking its corridors, believing its lies until they become truth. The revelation, then, is not that these cities are hidden, but that they were always meant to be. North Korea's greatest illusion is not invisibility, it is belief, and belief, once built, does not need walls to survive. There is a moment, deep inside every secret, when curiosity turns to unease. The further you descend into North Korea's hidden world, the more you realize that what is invisible is not forgotten. It is deliberately buried. In these forbidden cities, the air feels heavier, as though the walls themselves are listening. The silence is not peace, it is the sound of fear made permanent. Imagine walking through one of these places after sunset. The streets are empty, but the lights remain on, each bulb glowing faintly behind curtains that never open. There are no neon signs, no laughter, no music, only the rhythmic echo of boots on pavement and the distant hum of the ever-present loudspeakers. Propaganda songs drift through the air, blending into the wind like prayers to a God who never answers. In this stillness, the human spirit folds inward. These are the cities of endurance, places where hunger has a rhythm and obedience is as natural as breathing. In the capital, loyalty is rewarded with routine comfort, steady meals, electricity, the illusion of stability. But here, in the concealed zones beyond the maps, survival depends on silence. A mother might sell her wedding ring for a handful of cornmeal. A father might work 12-hour shifts in a coal mine, never seeing the sun, only to return home and praise the leader on his knees before dinner. Gratitude is not optional, it is sustenance. You begin to sense the architecture of despair. Entire districts built around factories that produce nothing but loyalty. Propaganda billboards rise taller than the houses beside them, showing men and women smiling with perfect teeth, holding shovels, raising flags. But behind the smiles are eyes that do not shine. Those images are lies, but lies so often repeated they begin to shape reality. To the children growing up here, this is normal. They do not dream of freedom. They dream of better obedience. Defectors tell stories that sound like nightmares disguised as routine. In one hidden city, every resident was required to attend a weekly self-criticism meeting. Each person confessed small mistakes, forgetting a slogan, smiling during a funeral broadcast, looking away from a portrait. The confessions were recorded, reviewed, and used to calculate loyalty scores. A low score could mean reassignment to a labor district. A missing meeting could mean disappearance. One defector recalled a woman who failed to attend because her child was ill. The next morning, both were gone. No one asked where. Questions were a form of suicide, and yet despite this atmosphere of terror, life persists with heartbreaking tenderness. A child still laughs when a father carves a toy from wood. A couple still shares glances in the market. A grandmother still hums an old song that predates the revolution, careful to keep her voice below the threshold of suspicion. These tiny rebellions are invisible, but they are everything. They are proof that humanity, even when buried, refuses to die. Inside the prison cities, the Kwanliso, the descent deepens. Here the state's cruelty becomes mechanical. Barbed wire stretches for miles, cutting through mountains and valleys. Guard towers punctuate the horizon, each one a reminder that freedom is an illusion. Prisoners are classified as irredeemable, their guilt inherited. Some are here for speaking against the government. Others are here because their fathers did. Generations are born and die within these fences, never seeing the world beyond. Survivors describe a hierarchy within horror. The strongest work in the mines, the weaker ones in the fields. There is no rest, only exhaustion measured in years. Food is scarce, corn husks, grass, rats. A prisoner who finds an earthworm hides it like treasure. At night, they sleep in wooden barracks, packed so tightly they cannot turn without disturbing another. Disease spreads silently, and death is met without ceremony. When someone collapses, the others are ordered to continue working. Grief itself is forbidden. But what lingers most is not the brutality. It is the belief that sustains it. Guards are not sadists by birth. They are believers by design. From the moment they are chosen, they are taught that prisoners are not human, that they are the enemies of purity. The system does not simply punish, it converts. It transforms ordinary people into instruments of ideology. And once belief fuses with fear, cruelty becomes sacred duty. One defector, a former guard, spoke of the moment he began to doubt. A child had died during forced labor. The boy's body was small enough to carry in one hand. When the guard reported it, his superior ordered him to bury the child under the foundation of a new barracks. "So he may support the future," the officer said. The guard obeyed, but something broke within him. That night he dreamed of the boy smiling. When he woke, he knew he had become part of something monstrous. It took him 5 years to escape, and when he finally crossed the border, he wept, not for what he had seen, but for what he had believed. Belief is the regime's sharpest weapon. In the secret cities, ideology replaces oxygen. From birth, citizens are told that their suffering is noble, that hardship is proof of purity, that death for the leader is the highest honor. The language itself reinforces submission. There is no word for I that isn't tied to the collective. Individuality dissolves into slogans, emotion into duty. And so, even when pain is unbearable, people endure with reverence. They suffer proudly. To outsiders, it may seem unimaginable, but inside the walls the system feels logical. It offers order in chaos, certainty in uncertainty. It gives meaning to hunger, purpose to fear. And when you live your entire life within that narrative, freedom itself becomes terrifying. Defectors often describe their first days outside as unbearable. The silence of choice overwhelms them. The absence of command feels like loss. It is only later that they realize what has been taken from them, the right to imagine a different life. Meanwhile, inside North Korea, the descent continues unseen. Entire towns have been swallowed by new construction projects, hydroelectric dams, chemical plants, weapons facilities. Civilians are relocated overnight, given no explanation. Some end up in barren valleys where the soil is too poor to grow food. Others are absorbed into factory zones that serve the military. These industrial complexes are often presented to the world as model socialist cities, but inside, they are places of exhaustion. Accidents are frequent, safety non-existent, but reporting a malfunction can be considered sabotage. The regime's control extends even into grief. When a family member dies, mourning must follow state guidelines. Portraits of the Kims must remain displayed above the coffin. Tears must fall in rhythm, grief expressed only through collective ceremony. A misplaced emotion, a moment of quiet reflection instead of patriotic lament, can raise suspicion. Even death must serve the state. In one hidden settlement near the border, residents recall how soldiers arrived one night and ordered them to gather outside. A man had been accused of stealing food from the communal storehouse. He was tied to a post in the square. As the entire village watched, a loudspeaker announced his crime, followed by a speech about loyalty. Then, without warning, a single shot ended his life. The body remained on display for 2 days. Children were forced to walk past it on their way to school. The message was clear. Fear is the foundation of order. And yet, under this unbearable weight, flickers of defiance survive. In the underground markets, known as Jangmadang, women trade goods smuggled from China. They are the quiet revolutionaries of North Korea, sustaining their families outside the state's economic control. Every transaction is an act of resistance. Every hidden sale, a small crack in the regime's armor. Over time, these markets have become lifelines, connecting people across forbidden boundaries. In some secret cities, entire neighborhoods depend on them. The government tolerates this black market economy because it must. After decades of isolation, even the illusion of self-sufficiency is failing. The more the regime hides, the more it must rely on what it cannot admit exists. This paradox defines North Korea's hidden cities, built to enforce control, yet slowly becoming the spaces where control begins to erode. The more perfect the illusion, the more fragile it becomes. For the people trapped inside, hope arrives in fragments. A glimpse of a foreign object washed up on a riverbank, a plastic bottle with English words, a broken phone, a grain of proof that another world exists. Sometimes it's a whisper from a smuggled radio, faint and distorted, but enough to ignite imagination. Soul, someone might hear, or freedom, or choice. Just one word can shatter decades of indoctrination. The mind once awakened cannot return to sleep. Still, awakening comes at a price. Defectors who are caught face punishment beyond comprehension. Public executions, forced labor, or transfer to political prisons. Families are punished alongside them. Entire bloodlines erased. In these hidden cities, fear is hereditary. It passes through generations like an unwanted inheritance, and so most choose silence. They endure quietly, waiting for a future they cannot name. In this descent, you begin to understand that North Korea's greatest cruelty is not physical. It is psychological. It is the theft of imagination, the systematic erasure of the human sense of possibility. When people no longer dream, control is complete. The secret cities are not just physical spaces, they are mental ones, constructed within the mind, reinforced by repetition and guarded by fear. And yet the human spirit remains a quiet insurgent. It resists through memory, through love, through the smallest acts of defiance. A mother hides a photo of her son who fled. A boy carves his initials into a bridge before being relocated. A teacher risks her life to tell students about the ocean. Each act, though invisible, is a spark in the dark. In the end, every regime fears what it cannot see. For North Korea, that is the human heart, the one thing no wall can contain. The deeper you go into these hidden cities, the more clearly you see it. Beneath the choreography of obedience lies a pulse that refuses to stop. A quiet, enduring rhythm that whispers, even here, even now, we are still alive. Dawn rises differently in North Korea's forbidden cities. It doesn't burst into color. It seeps slowly through mist, filtered through dust and secrecy. The first light touches the barbed wire, the concrete towers, the watchful faces of guards who do not sleep. To an outsider, it would seem lifeless, but to those within, it is the beginning of another day in a world that pretends not to exist. Now we enter the layer few have seen, the realm of exposure. The mask begins to slip here. The illusion of order cracks, revealing what lies beneath. Privilege built upon hunger, beauty built upon silence, progress built upon disappearance. This is the North Korea that even its most loyal citizens are never meant to witness. Imagine an entire city designed for the elite. Its streets are wider, its buildings taller, its air cleaner. It is rumored that one such city lies near Wonsan, on the country's eastern coast, built for the ruling class and high-ranking officials. Locals call it the City of Light, though it is invisible to the average citizen. Here, imported cars glide through guarded avenues. Markets overflow with goods smuggled from abroad. Japanese electronics, Swiss chocolates, European wines. Children study English, not to speak with foreigners, but to understand them when they are spied upon. The city functions like a world apart, a paradise within the cage. Foreign visitors never see this place. The regime showcases Pyongyang's manicured facades instead, masking the elite's true sanctuaries. Beyond the tourist routes, down unmarked roads, the luxurious heart of North Korea thrives in secrecy. Villas dot the coast, guarded by the military. Underground tunnels link them to airfields and naval bases. Some reports claim even private beaches exist, reserved for those whose loyalty has been proven beyond question. While the masses scavenge for food, the chosen few dine on imported beef and foreign whiskey, their plates heavy with contradiction. The irony is relentless. The nation that preaches equality sustains its hierarchy in shadows. The closer you get to power, the more you see the hypocrisy gleaming like a blade. Kim Jong-un's inner circle lives in walled-off cities equipped with generators, cinemas, medical facilities, even golf courses, luxuries unimaginable to ordinary citizens. These enclaves are hidden not only from the world, but from North Korea itself. To maintain the illusion of universal struggle, privilege must remain unseen. But the same system that hides comfort also conceals cruelty. Just beyond these secret sanctuaries lie industrial zones where workers toil without rest. They produce the goods that sustain the illusion of prosperity: uniforms for parades, weapons for export, parts for missiles that will never be acknowledged. From above, it looks like progress. On the ground, it feels like despair. The air smells of smoke and metal, and the faces of workers are blank with fatigue. Their homes are close enough to hear the hum of generators from the elite compound, but far enough to never see its lights. In these regions, the contrast is cruelly precise. A few miles can separate starvation from abundance, silence from laughter. It is a geography of inequality mapped in real time. And yet, to the regime, this division is sacred. It reinforces the myth that privilege is earned through loyalty, that comfort is proof of faith. The elite live well because they have suffered perfectly, or so the story goes. There are other cities too, built for different kinds of secrecy. In the northern provinces near the Chinese border lies Hiesan, a city that breathes two realities at once. Officially, it is a border trade hub, a symbol of resilience. Unofficially, it is a gateway for escape, smuggling, and forbidden contact. Here, foreign currency circulates quietly through back alleys. Traders risk their lives to cross the frozen Yalu River, carrying USB drives, rice, medicine, and news. It is through Hiesan and other border towns that whispers of the outside world seep in, piece by piece, bite by bite. The regime knows this, and so it builds another layer of cities, not for production, not for privilege, but for control. Surveillance hubs, command centers. Entire neighborhoods devoted to watching other neighborhoods. In these places, technology is both primitive and omnipotent. Cameras are outdated, but human informants are endless. The walls have ears, the streets have eyes, and every piece of paper carries the weight of potential betrayal. One defector, once part of an internal monitoring team, described how entire districts were organized into watch cells. Each family was responsible for observing another. Reports were filed weekly, sometimes daily. Suspicion was encouraged as patriotism. "We were told that to love the leader was to distrust your neighbor," she said. "The closer you were to someone, the more carefully you had to watch them. It was a society without privacy, without innocence. But there is another form of exposure, one the regime cannot control. In recent years, satellites have peeled away the darkness, revealing outlines of structures long denied. Hidden air bases, new nuclear facilities, ghost towns. The world has begun to see what was never meant to be seen. Yet even as light reaches these forbidden places, interpretation remains elusive. What looks like a warehouse may be a bunker. What seems like a factory might be a prison. The ambiguity is the regime's last defense. When everything is hidden, nothing can be proven. Still, the pattern is unmistakable. The number of restricted sites grows each year. Some are built into mountains, invisible from above. Others lie beneath lakes or inside forests, where their roofs are painted green to blend with the trees. Engineers design entire complexes to mimic farmland from satellite view, rows of fake crops above underground facilities. In a nation where perception is power, deception becomes architecture. The most striking examples are the mirror cities, urban replicas constructed to test military responses and control simulations. From the air, they look like real towns, streets, parks, schools, but they are empty. Their purpose remains speculative. Some believe they're used for tactical drills. Others think they serve as propaganda film sets. Whatever the truth, their existence confirms a chilling truth. North Korea doesn't just hide reality, it manufactures it. Even Pyongyang itself contains these layers. Beneath the capital's polished boulevards lies an underground city reserved for the elite in case of war. Tunnels connect government buildings to hidden bunkers. Entire subway lines, unknown to the public, run beneath the known ones. One defector described a train that carried only officials, with stations unmarked on any map. When asked where it led, he answered quietly, "To safety, for them." And then there are the islands. Scattered along the western coast, small and heavily fortified, they serve as private retreats for the leadership. From afar, they appear empty, just clusters of trees and sand. But high-resolution imagery reveals villas, helipads, and docks large enough for yachts. The regime's inner circle visits them often, escorted by armed convoys, their arrivals unrecorded. One such island, reportedly near the port of Nampo, houses a villa with underground tunnels leading to the sea. It is said that the waves here sound different, muted, controlled, as if even nature is under surveillance. What emerges from all this is a portrait of contradiction. A country starving and thriving, decaying and expanding, silent yet deafening in its secrecy. The hidden cities are not random. They are the nervous system of the regime. They connect privilege to poverty, power to paranoia, illusion to endurance. Each one serves a function in the grand machinery of control. But exposure is not merely physical, it is psychological. Once you begin to see the patterns, you realize that the entire nation operates as a hall of mirrors. Every truth has a reflection, every reflection a lie. The citizen is both observer and prisoner, both believer and victim. Even the guards who enforce obedience are trapped within it. There is no outside when the illusion defines reality, and yet, exposure always brings consequence. The cracks are widening. Information seeps through phones smuggled from China, through radio signals that travel farther than the regime expects. A new generation is quietly waking up to the realization that the outside world is not their enemy. They see the lights of South Korea across the border. They hear voices that do not sound afraid. For some, this awakening is unbearable. It challenges everything they've been taught to worship. For others, it is salvation. The regime senses it too, and so it builds faster, digs deeper, conceals more. The hidden cities multiply like shadows chasing the sun, but shadows cannot exist without light. The more the world learns, the harder it becomes to hide. Every satellite pass, every defector's testimony, every image leaked through encrypted networks chips away at the mythology. The forbidden is becoming visible. Still, the danger remains. Exposure without understanding can turn truth into spectacle. The world sees the empty streets, the strange architecture, the ghostly silence, but not the lives within. The hidden cities are not just symbols of tyranny. They are homes to millions who have no choice but to survive within the illusion. Each window holds a story, a mother's grief, a child's laughter, a soldier's fear. They are invisible not because they are unworthy of notice, but because they have been buried under layers of ideology. To see North Korea's secret cities is not to solve the mystery, but to inherit its weight. The realization that an entire people can be hidden in plain sight, their lives choreographed and erased with equal precision, is almost unbearable. Yet the truth insists on being seen, so we look closer, and what we see changes us. There is a strange stillness when you leave the hidden cities behind. It clings to you like fog, the kind that makes silence feel heavier than sound. You step out of North Korea's shadow, but the echo remains. The hum of speakers, the rhythm of marching feet, the faces staring out from painted walls. You realize the most haunting thing about the country is not what it hides, but what it makes invisible, the ordinary lives buried beneath its performance of perfection. Imagine flying once more over the peninsula at night. The south burns with light, a constellation of freedom, noise, chaos. The north remains a void, save for a faint glowing dot, Pyongyang. But now, after this journey, you know that even in that darkness there are countless other lights, hidden, muted, deliberately concealed. Entire cities breathing quietly, unseen by satellites, unseen by history. It is not an absence of life. It is life denied visibility. The secret cities of North Korea were never meant to be discovered. They were born from fear, the fear of invasion, of dissent, of truth. Each tunnel, each ghost neighborhood, each walled compound is a monument to the regime's belief that secrecy is survival. But beneath that logic lies something more fragile, the terror of being known. For in being known, one must also be held accountable. For decades, the regime's strength has depended on invisibility. What the world cannot see, it cannot challenge. What the people cannot imagine, they cannot desire. The architecture of control is not just physical, it's emotional. Every law, every broadcast, every building is designed to control what is seen, what is said, and most of all, what is believed. And yet belief is shifting, slowly, invisibly. The cracks that began as whispers now hum beneath the surface. A USB drive passed in a market stall, a conversation carried out in code. A soldier who decides not to fire. A mother who hides her child's forbidden laughter instead of silencing it. These moments are small, almost imperceptible, but they are multiplying. The tragedy of North Korea's hidden world is not just its suffering, it is the extraordinary resilience it conceals. To endure decades of deprivation and still hope, that is not submission. It is quiet defiance. Every act of endurance, every stolen glance toward freedom is an act of rebellion. Even silence, when chosen, becomes a form of protest. Some of the regime's most loyal servants are beginning to see it too. The officials who watch the monitors, who read the reports, who guard the gates, they are beginning to understand the futility of hiding an entire nation from the world. Technology does not respect walls. Satellites see everything. Signals leak through borders like breath. The age of invisibility is ending. But endings in North Korea are never simple. For every light that emerges, a shadow deepens. As information spreads, the regime grows more desperate to retain control. Surveillance tightens, punishments intensify. The hidden cities, once symbols of power, are now fortresses against exposure. In the mountains near the Chinese border, new complexes rise, their roofs camouflaged with digital precision. Data centers hum beneath them, feeding the government's expanding network of control. The tools of modernity once feared are being turned into weapons of surveillance. The walls are evolving, and yet the paradox persists. The more control the regime exerts, the more fragile it becomes. A government that survives by hiding cannot withstand too much light. The truth does not need to shout. It only needs to exist. Every photograph leaked, every testimony recorded, every defector who speaks chips away at the illusion. It is slow, agonizing, and incomplete, but it is inevitable. Still, there is danger in how we see North Korea. The temptation is to view it as an alien world, cold, distant, incomprehensible. But to do so is to misunderstand it. The people who live in these secret cities are not mysteries, they are mirrors. Their lives, stripped of choice, remind us how fragile our own freedoms are. Their silence reflects our privilege to speak. Their suffering exposes our capacity for indifference. Perhaps that is why these hidden cities unsettle us so deeply. They are not only secrets of a totalitarian regime, they are reflections of what humanity becomes when truth is feared more than death. They show us that civilization at its darkest can still function, can still smile, can still build monuments while breaking souls. And yet, there is something else in that darkness, something stubborn, almost sacred. The capacity to imagine. Despite everything, people still dream. Defectors speak of the moment they first saw the world beyond the border, the first unfiltered sunrise, the first streetlight left burning past curfew. They describe it as unbearable beauty, the kind that feels like pain, because freedom, after a lifetime of fear, is not joy. It is disorientation. It is realizing that everything you've ever known was a stage, and you were both actor and audience. In that realization, something begins to heal. Truth does not erase suffering, but it makes it visible. And what is visible can no longer be denied. That is why exposure matters. Not just for justice, but for memory. The hidden cities of North Korea are not just places on a map. They are warnings carved into the human story. Proof of how easily truth can be buried and how desperately it tries to rise again. Someday, perhaps, the maps will change. The blank spaces will be filled in. The satellite images will show bustling streets instead of empty courtyards, and the loudspeakers will fall silent. Children will grow up without rehearsed slogans. Mothers will no longer whisper apologies to portraits. The cities that once existed only in fear will finally exist in truth. But for now, they remain invisible. They hum quietly beneath the clouds, between mountains and borders, within the minds of those who have escaped and those who never will. They are reminders that the darkest places are not always empty. They are often full of lives that the world has not yet learned to see. And as we look back, from the safety of distance, we realize something unsettling. These hidden cities were never truly hidden from us. We just chose not to look closely enough. The darkness was always there, not as absence, but as avoidance. The night over the peninsula is quiet again. Pyongyang's faint light flickers in the distance, and somewhere beyond it, unseen and unrecorded, a secret city exhales. Inside, a child looks up at the portrait on the wall, then out the window toward the stars. For the first time, she wonders if someone else might be looking back. That question, simple, fragile, forbidden, is how every wall begins to crack. And in that question lies the first breath of freedom,